Hi, Kyle here with Inglewood Camera, and today I'm going to teach you how to load some film into a 35mm camera. So I have a Pentax K1000 here. It's the #1 selling camera in Inglewood camera history. Makes a great student camera. We sell them to college students and high school students who are taking film photography classes. I'm going to go over here, grab a roll of 400 Tri-X. So before we start loading the film into the 35mm camera, let's kind of go over some basic features of the camera so you kind of know what you're doing when you're navigating the outside of it. This is a Pentax K1000. It's very easy to navigate. Just like most 35mm cameras, they're pretty basic. There's like 3 different things you need to know, 4 different things. The first thing would be the advance lever. Every time you take a picture, you have to advance your film to the next picture. The next thing we're going to go over is the shutter dial that's going to control your shutter speeds. The bigger the number, the faster your shutter is going to close and stop action and light. And then the smaller the number, the longer it's going to stay open and let more light in, so for cool long exposure, whatnot. And then you probably have a B on your shutter dial, and that's for bulb mode, and you're going to have to screw something in usually to your shutter release button that you're going to hold down, and it'll be a long exposure. You can keep it open as long as you want. And then the next thing on that shutter dial is your ASA, most likely. So you'd lift that, you'd set your ASA, that's the speed of your film, the number on the box usually, or on the film canister. You set that and then forget it. You don't want to change that after you put it in your camera. Some cameras will even have a little slot window there. You can tear the door off the box to remind yourself. The next thing I wanted to go over is aperture. You most likely have an aperture ring on your camera. It's because you have a lens on your camera. And so you'll find the aperture ring on the lens. It kind of controls depth of field and how much light is coming in when you're taking a picture. And so you've got a big number and a small number on your aperture ring. The bigger the number, the less light comes in and the smaller the diameter. And the smaller the number, the more light comes in and the less depth of field you have. The second to last thing that we're going to go over here on a 35mm film camera is the rewind knob. And so it's pretty important when you're done shooting your film, you're going to rewind your film back into the canister. And so that's usually on the left side. It's got an arrow to tell you which way you're going. And it's also how you pop open the camera and you start loading the film. So you've got your 35mm film camera open, you're looking at the back, it looks a little intimidating, there's a lot going on, so let's go over some important parts here on the inside. You've got your pressure plate, and that's going to keep the film nice and flush on the film plane. You've got some sprockets and your film take-up, and that's where your film's going to live after you start advancing it and taking pictures. And then you've got your shutter curtain. The shutter curtain's important. You don't want to damage it. Your finger's going to be really close to it while you're loading your film, so just make sure that you don't stick your finger through there because then you're out of camera. All right, so you know the inside and the outside of your film camera now, or at least the basics. So let's start loading the film. Your film will most likely come in a film canister. Fun fact about film canisters, we have way too many of them here at the store, and they hold about $7.25 for everyone who's still visiting the laundromat like me sometimes. All right, so you've got your film take-up on the right side. On the left side, that's where your canister is going to go. And so I like to slip it in here, and then I like to push the knob of the rewind down into it so it kind of is secure in there. You make sure you watch your fingers as you pull it over that film plane across the shutter curtain, and then on your take-up you'll see a little slot. It's always nice to see it nice and vertical so it's easy to get in there. You're just going to push it in there nice and cool, and then you'll see some sprocket holes on your film, and that's where you want them to meet up with the little sprocket take-up on your take-up wheel. And so I like to, don't worry about it, you've got a lot of leader here, and you're going to take it in. Your sprocket holes will match. I like to take one picture or so, make sure they're good to go. It looks like it's safe, it's easy, it's in there. Push it down, and you're good to go. So you just finished shooting your roll, super exciting. You either have 24 or 36 pictures, your film counter is all the way to the end, and now it's time to rewind your film. This is probably one of the most important steps of shooting film and the whole film process in your camera is the release button. You have to release this side of your camera so you can rewind it, because if you don't release it, you're gonna tear all those sprocket holes, and then scanning it and developing it is gonna be a lot harder. And so what you do is you hit this button. It should stay in. Almost every film camera is going to have a release button on the bottom. Some have them on the front. And then you lift the knob. There should be an arrow. It says R, that's for rewind. And you just start going, and you should feel tension If you feel tension, you still have film in your camera. Once you feel a click or you feel it get a lot easier to rewind, that means all the film is inside your canister. And so you pop it open, you should see your canister there. There's no leader out anymore, and you've got a completed roll. Now it's time to develop it. And that's how you load a 35mm film camera. If you have any questions, post them below in the comments and we'll get back to you. Thanks for watching.